Katie, all set? The mayor is en route, so at this point in time, it's 7:04. I'd like to call the May 28th, 2024 meeting of the Laconia City Council in the Armand Baldick City Council chambers to order. I'd like to ask Councilor Cheney if you'd lead us in the flag, please. The salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilor Cheney. We are joined by Recording Secretary Katie Gargano. My name is Mark Haynes. I'm Ward 4 Councilor, Mayor Pro Tem. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Counselor Cheney,
Here.
Counselor Susie,
Here.
Counselor Hoffman,
Present.
Counselor Haynes,
Here.
Counselor Bogert,
Here.
Counselor Felch.
Present. All right, also, we're joined, staff in attendance by City Manager Kurt Beatty and our Finance Director Glenn Smith. There are no council proclamations. Acceptance of the May 10th, 2024 regular city council meeting. The minutes of the city council meeting on May 13th,
That's weird. Yeah, it's May 13th.
Okay, May 13th, 2024, was distributed to the members of the city council on May 23rd, 2024. With no corrections or changes submitted to the clerk, the minutes will be accepted. Okay, Katie, I need to back up a little bit. We have May 10th.
Nope, it's May 13th,
Okay, all right,
regular city council,
Okay.
and then the budget.
okay. Consent and action items, we have none.
You got one more set of minutes to approve.
Consider-
You
Well,
have, you have
that's
two
why I
May
was-
13th, yeah, there's two sets of minutes. One was a special budget. and
Okay,
one
I'm
was
sorry.
regular council.
All right, we need to back up then. Okay. We approve the minutes of the city council meeting. We need to, the minutes of the city council budget meeting of May 13th was distributed on May 23rd, 2024. There were no corrections that were submitted to the clerk, and the minutes are accepted. Okay, consent and action items, we have none. Citizens' comments for matters not on the agenda. This is the time set aside for members of the, for citizens to comment on any matters that are not on the agenda. Now is the time. Okay, I guess there's nothing pressing. We have no interviews. There are no nominations, appointments. There are no communications. Next, we have a public hearing on ordinance 2000, ordinance, yeah, let me see. The ordinance is on transfer station fees for commercial bulk recycling. Notice is here, the notice of this public hearing was made available on May 16th, 2024 edition of the Daily Sun and posted at Laconia City Hall, Laconia Community Center, Laconia Public Library, and the offices of SAU. I'd like to open the public hearing at 7:08. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to comment on the transfer station fee for commercial bulk recycling, now is the time. Okay, I'd like to close the public hearing at 7:09. Next, we have the presentation of the Weirs TIF District Advisory Board presentation. Robert Ames, Chairman of the Weirs TIF District Advisory Board, will be presenting information on the board's proposed development activities as shown on the attached document. Mr. Ames, welcome.
Hello. Good evening. The Weirs TIF was established about 10 years ago, and when it was established, there was a list of proposed development activities, and some of those things have been accomplished, the most important one being the burial of the utility wires on Lakeside Avenue. So, over the years, certain priorities change in terms of what we think is most important. And so we have revised our list of activities, and everybody has a copy of that now. And should I go over that verbally? Would that be helpful, or?
No, go ahead, sir, whatever you feel comfortable with.
Okay. Well, the most important development activity at the very top of our list is to restore the public beach at the Weirs. The beach was built in the 1950s. It's severely eroded since then, and it's also, the sand has migrated from the north end of the beach all the way towards the Weirs Channel, and a lot of it has gone into the channel and is gone permanently from the beach. About 10 years ago, we went to the State Department of Environmental Services, and we told them what we wanted to do, and we have had a couple of studies that have been done by the city and the Woods Hole Engineering Group, and there's a plan out there for what needs to be done and how to do it. And there's been money budgeted by the city. I believe there's a $300,000 bond that's sitting there that's available to put towards this project whenever it gets started and gets done. And one of the items in the engineering study was the need for extending the breakwater jetty along the Weirs Channel, because a lot of that sand would be saved if the jetty was longer than it is in its current form. So this is our number one priority. One of the main problem has seemed to be, up to this point, is getting permission from the state to go ahead and do this project. So we're continuing to work on getting permission from the state and getting our financing in place. I would also point out that there is a beach fund, a special beach fund that the city has established with extra for the amount of parking revenue that comes in at the beach, over $25,000 every year, and that fund is built up. There's also a beach sticker fund. Those funds are approximately $200,000 at this point, so we almost have $500,000 that we could put into the beach if desired, and if we could get permission from the state to go ahead. So that is our main priority. And the number 2 item on our list is the reconfiguration of the Weirs Public Boat Docks. And I would like to get Ryan Cardella from East Coast Flightcraft up here to talk about this particular project, because he's very, very knowledgeable about what is needed down at the docks.
Thank you. Ryan, East Coast Flightcraft, Winnipesaukee Pier Marketplace, and the boats at Flightcraft. One thing we're seeing in the area, which we have a lot of partners throughout the lake, access by boat to the Weirs. Obviously, a lot of these old buildings need a lot to be put back in to bring them up to par. Getting investors over to the lakes, they need to know numbers. What can they do for parking, by boat, by car, and obviously boats. Average boater spends 30% more than somebody by car. A boat brings 4 to 6 people in. So the pier or the slips that are currently built, they were built obviously for small, narrow boats. Now the boats have got larger, wider, so it's almost impossible to ever get anywhere near full occupancy on them. You put 2 boats at the end, you can't get anyone inside, or you have to move. I don't know how many people watch or on social media this past week, but it was a nightmare. A lot of people were talking about how other people were moving boats and scratching and tying it up, etc. And we think all this can be alleviated by taking the finger slip out and moving it to the end. And it's just a must need, I guess I feel. We have the ability to do it. That's the only thing missing. I do feel it's not a big exercise. I guess knowing marine construction, we did offer to lend up our barge for it because we know that's going to be the biggest cost. So we do have a barge that we can donate for this use. We do have a team too that I know is going to be or should be bidding on this. So we'd love to see this happen, and I do think this is the biggest change down there that we need to see, because fortunately parking by car it's at capacity. So the only thing that we can change is of course by waterfront. We've seen what they did in Meredith, we've seen what they've done in Wolfboro, and if you look at Wolfboro, it was a big change right out of the gate. I mean, just by swapping what they did, it's bringing in a ton more revenue, which is bringing in more business, more tourists, and I don't want to get left off this map, I guess, when we're bringing people up. So any questions on the configuration or anything like that, or that just the presentation part you had? I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Pretty easy. Excellent.
Thank you, Ryan.
I just wanted to add that there was a plan for the reconfiguration. It's totally planned out. It's the city got a grant a couple of years ago that would have paid partially for this project. I think it was about $170,000. But then the pandemic hit and we couldn't get bids that were reasonable, and so the project was put to one side. We hope that the city will consider putting it back on the front burner and getting it done, because it's very, very important. Continuing on with our priority list, the third item on the list would be to remove the unplanned trees and the wild growth on the embankment between the boardwalk and the lake, and install appropriate low-height, low-maintenance plantings and to manage future growth so the views are not obstructed. I don't know how many of you might remember this, but in 2008, there was a very severe rainstorm. There was a breach to the boardwalk. The boardwalk had to be rebuilt. At that time, the boardwalk was rebuilt, but the state DES department said we could not, they were very particular about the maintenance of that embankment, or the non-maintenance rather, because they wanted to see the embankment stabilized, so no runoff would go into the lake. So this is a big problem because the trees have grown up over it since that time. There's been no maintenance of the embankment, and the view is starting to be impeded, especially in the first section of the boardwalk between the train station and the stairs to the public docks. There's definitely quite a few trees that have grown up and have been blocking the view. If possible, all three of these top priorities, the public boat docks, the beach, redoing the beach, and doing the growth on the embankment could possibly be addressed at the same time in order to save money, because you'll have all the construction and equipment in there at one time. It would make sense to maybe try and get it all done at the same time. Moving on, our next three priorities would all be on or adjoining the boardwalk. Number 4 on the list would be a public bandstand. There used to be a public bandstand in the parking lot of the Winnipesaukee Pier from the late 1920s through the early 50s. That was removed. And then in the late 50s, a bandstand was put on top of the train station. And that remained there until 1987, until the train station was rebuilt. Since that time, there has been no public bandstand in the area of the boardwalk, and it would be great to bring that back, whether it's on the boardwalk or by building an adjoining structure that would be close to the boardwalk. That area between the Mount Washington train building and the stairs could be perhaps extended out towards the water, and that would be able to accommodate the bandstand and possibly an ADA public restroom as well. And it would also give more area for events and activities. Once again, we think that maybe these three items, extending the boardwalk, putting a public bandstand, and adding a public restroom, could all be perhaps grouped together to save time and money. After those two groups of priorities, our next priorities would be building a public boat ramp in the district, construction of sidewalks throughout the district, a bike path along the proposed WOW Trail corridor and elsewhere in the district. Item number 10 presupposes that we're able to do the beach and build that jetty along the channel. If that is the case, we would like to see a lighthouse or gazebo built at the end of that. Number 11 on the list would be wayfinding signs with the city design in various useful places throughout the district. And our final priorities, which would be, again, possibly grouped together because it would be make sense from a time and cost perspective, would be a public Wi-Fi system and webcams, including areas of the public beach, boardwalk, and public docks.
Council have any questions, comments? Councilor Cheney?
Bob, this has absolutely nothing to do with this directly. Where is the rock with the 16-something chiseled into it?
Where is the what?
The rock that supposedly has the year 16-something.
It's the Endicott Rock under the monument.
Where is it? Is that,
It's in the little building there that has the Indian on the top.
and
Yeah.
there is no state marker for that? No, you know,
Historic?
yeah.
There's a marker inside the building.
Yeah, but you know, roadside ones that,
Oh, no, there's nothing, there is a historical sign on the boardwalk that.
I
that-
guess I'm talking about the kind, like out in front of the mill across the street.
Right, yeah, no, there's nothing like that.
How would the Weirs folks feel about pushing for a marker?
I guess, since the city owns the land of the Endicott Rock Park, we don't have to get permission to do it, we could just do it. Put up a sign, put up a
Well,
marker.
I think the state has to determine that the sign, you've answered my question, and I apologize if it's out of round, but I'd like to,
Yeah, you'd like to see something like
Yeah.
up at the beginning of the parking lot, so it directs people that way. Yeah, I understand that.
That makes sense, sure.
I knew the Indian was there. I didn't know the rock
Yep.
come out into a hole in the snow.
And there is a little plaque
Yep.
down there.
Yeah, inside the monument, yeah.
But if we had one out at the road, people like me might walk down to see what it looked like.
I know at one time we had some vandalism down there, no problems with that lately.
The statue was removed from the top and put in the lake. We're talking 80s,
Right.
80s now. So so the statue was restored and put it in the Laconia Library, and where it still stands to this day.
But nothing since then.
No.
Kurt, has there been any movement as far as the state is concerned with the sand and the erosion?
Not much. Our Parks Director has been working with DES to come up with a plan, and it hasn't moved along with any speed whatsoever. So,
And no new news on a grant or anything for the docks?
no news on the grant. We did go out and rebid, like you said, that the cost changed after COVID. We got it at about $750,000 now, from a number that was in the 300,000s pre-COVID. So, no, but we are looking into if there's any opportunity either to expand or reapply. So we're working on that. We just got the numbers back not that long ago for what the new cost would be.
Yeah, I'm guessing that what Mr. Ames was talking about as far as the trees are concerned will be the same problem with, that we've had at Opeachy and other places.
Probably, but I'll reach out to, I'll talk to Amy and take a look at that.
Okay.
And I did just talk to Ryan. Well, I'll go out and take a look at the, with the docs to make sure what we're talking about and what they're talking about are exactly the same thing. I'm sure they are, but I'll get out, I'll pick a nice day. And I'll go up to the Weirs and take a look at it, make sure that we're all on the same page, and, yeah, I'll let you know.
Is there money in the TIF fund too for the Weirs?
We can do some TIF money for some of these projects, not some of the bigger ticket items right now, but certainly for some of them, or if we were to, look at a bond for something bigger and then pay with that out of it. We've been looking at that right now.
Is there anyone else?
Yeah, I saw you make that.
Okay,
Thank you,
Mr.
Robert.
Ames, thank you very much. Katie, the mayor has joined the meeting at 7:20, and I'll turn it over to the mayor. Mayor Hausman.
Thank you very much, Councilor Haynes, for filling in for me. I'd like to move item number 21G up on the agenda, and that is a request for the city of Laconia to serve as an applicant for the CDBG planning grant on behalf of the Community Action Program for Belknap, Merrimack counties in regards to the Laconia Senior Center. Karen Pryor is here. Would it be possible for you to walk us through this just a little bit and get us up to speed?
Good evening. It's nice to be back before all of you again. Thank you very much, Mayor Hosmer. So I have been, I'm a development consultant working with Belknap Merrimack CAP, Community Action Program. They have purchased the building where the Laconia Senior Center is, and they're looking to put in a commercial kitchen. This kitchen will not only serve the Laconia Senior Center, but it will also serve all of the senior centers within Belknap County, which includes Laconia, Tilton, Acton, Alton, as well as the city of Franklin. So all meals will be cooked here and then disseminated out to the various different senior centers, and that also includes Meals on Wheels. So this commercial kitchen, we're going to be pulling together a capital campaign project in order to build this commercial kitchen. And what we're looking to do initially, is we're working with New Hampshire CDFA to put together a planning grant in the amount of $25,000. Of that $25,000, $5,000 will be going to administrative fees to cover the grant writer. And what we're asking for the city of Laconia is to please serve as the applicant for this grant request, with the Belknap CAP serving as the co-applicant. We cannot go in as the primary applicant. We're asking the city of Laconia to do that on our behalf.
Thank you, Karen. Kirk, does this cost the city anything to be in the
No.
applicant?
No, it's not.
So there are no matching funds. And this $25,000 planning grant for our senior center, what will that grant cover? What type of planning services will be done?
So it'll cover some engineering, pre-construction. It'll also cover capital campaign costs, marketing costs, everything that's needed to put together the package so that we can move forward and get some pre-development money so we can move forward with the project.
Thank you. Any questions from the council? Go right ahead.
The building you said you purchased, that was that condo unit, right? Is that,
It's right, so it's a recent purchase, and it's right, Mayor
Next to
Hosmer, maybe you
Legacy,
can help
on
me,
the
yeah.
Sawyer, right next to
Sawyer's, where jewelry.
store
it's
was.
condo unit?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
And there's several community action programs that are happening within those different building or different condos, one of which is the Laconia Senior Center.
I went in there, and you feel there's enough space there to do this?
Yes, we already have some preliminary construction, so there's a space now that is being designated for the kitchen, and then the senior center program space is right next door.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you, Karen. Appreciate your input here.
Thank you for your time.
Sure. So right now, I'll be looking for a motion to move that the city of Laconia serve as the applicant for a CDBG planning grant from the New Hampshire Community Development Finance Authority on behalf of the Community Action Program for Belknap, Merrimack counties as presented. So made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Susie. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Thank you. Going back up to, back on schedule here, agenda item number 15, which is the mayor's report. I'll just keep it brief. I want to say what a pleasure and honor it was to spend Memorial Day in Veterans Square with Councilors Cheney and Haynes. And thank you to everyone who turned out for our event yesterday. It's always remarkable to think about all the men and women who've answered the call and gone to war, dating back hundreds of years now from the city of Laconia. Certainly, I encourage everyone to take a walk down to Veterans Square and take a look at those panels with the names of men and women from the city of Laconia who raised their hand and wore the uniform. So thank you, Councilor Cheney. Thank you for your service to this country. Thank you, Councilor Haynes, as well, for being there and supporting that event, which is unfortunately has far too few people showing up for it these days. And it's so important that I'd like to see more people show up, quite frankly. But that being said, moving on to agenda item number 16, which is council comments. Look to councilors here. Would you like to make anyone, Councilor Haynes?
Thank you. It was noted in Laconia Links, and I'd like to give a shout out to Bob Chaplin. The middle school had an election for student council, and I know most of you are going to say, isn't that nice? But it was conducted with our city clerk, and it was conducted with our, under the auspices of our elected people in Ward 3. And I think it was great, and I hope it goes further mentioned that this is teaching our young people about our democracy. And it probably doesn't have anything to do with it, but, you know, as far as presidential election or a state election, but it's getting them used to, and I guess the city clerk could tell us they had to check in and check out, and they had to place the ballots and knew the election process. And I think it's very important, and I think it's great that our young people are learning the election process. And you know, those of us that work as electors and election officials, it's very important. And if we can get our youngsters to understand the importance and how to do it, it will make our lives a lot easier as election officials. Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome, Councilor Haynes, but you know, I appreciate you speaking up, but one of the great concerns I had about this thing, and it hasn't set right with me, is there were busloads of voters being dropped off in front of the polls that morning, and I'd like to get to the bottom of it.
Did it have Massachusetts license plate?
Yeah, none of those kids look familiar to me.
And they were all blue colored.
Anyway, thank you. Are there any other council comments this evening? Busloads, one after another, Councilor Cheney, you wouldn't believe it. Coming from far and wide.
It's always been a concern of mine.
That is, I don't blame
I'm
you.
sorry,
I'm with you now.
I'm sorry I brought it up, no.
I get
Well,
it.
when I ran for student council, they were trucking them in too.
All right, if there are no other council comments, I'll move on to committee reports. Any committee reports this evening? Councilor Haynes,
Sorry.
what are you gonna bring up now?
Public Works Committee met on Friday, and we looked at the situation as far as Fair Street and Court Street intersection. We spent a considerable time, and thank to our Public Works Director, Wes Anderson. He showed us the boundary lines, he showed us what the city owns, what we'd have to do to enlarge it, what we'd have to do as far as sidewalks and everything else. We talked about having lights there. The committee was unanimous that they were not in favor of lights. Every solution, I'll be brief, every solution that we came up with, we created a problem. I think the important statistic was the chief of Police gave us the statistics as far as accidents are concerned on Fair and Court. They averaged out about 3 a year. There was no, most of them, all of them were fender benders. There were no PI involved. So the committee came to the conclusion, unless there's any further activity and any other concerns from our constituents, we would just like to leave it as is. And that was the committee report.
Thank you. Counselor Susie.
Finance Committee. Finance Committee met last week also, and the main reason for getting together was EMS billing. So we met with the fire chiefs, both for Chief Gilbert and also the chief who's in charge of the EMS side of the facilities. And they had gone through a lot of work. I know I mentioned when we were doing the planning department, I was really impressed with the spreadsheet they put together outlining all the EMS billing that was done for a number of different cities and towns around the area. So they've recommended, Laconia had not been updated in a few years. You'll see later on in your agenda 22B that the Finance Committee has recommended that we adopt the new EMS billings that was presented to us, went through it, a number of questions, and we're right in the center of the of all the cities and towns, so we're not overcharging or undercharging at this point.
Thank you for your work on that, Counselor Susie. Any liaison reports? All right. Moving on to agenda item number 19, citizens request to comment on current agenda items. If there are any citizens here who would like to speak to current agenda items, now would be the appropriate time. Let's move right along to the city manager's report, agenda item number 20.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So if you remember last meeting, I actually gave multiple reports. So I don't have my official reports tonight because I don't need to, but I just want to give you one update through our Public Works Department. We had mentioned that there was going to be some catch basin work done on North Main Street between the railroad tracks and Oak Street. The work that they need to do, if they just do it and open it right up to traffic, it's not going to work. So they're going to need to close that section of road to local traffic only, again, between the railroad tracks on North Main Street and Oak Street. The time frame has just been finalized. It's going to be 7 a.m. Thursday morning and should reopen by around noontime on Friday. Local traffic will be able to get in there, residents and businesses, emergency vehicles will be able to get through. They just don't want the steady flow of traffic going through there, so they'll be detoured. Electronic signs have been placed. One has been placed, one will be placed tomorrow morning. Again, we just got the finalization of the time frame today. So that'll be up, and so that's really just something to look out for over the next couple days. Other than that, that's all I have for you tonight.
Counselor Cheney may have a question.
Just, we have this talk, but perhaps you could tell us, I had asked questions about Tower Hill.
Yes.
And the repairs. I wonder
Yeah,
if you.
those repairs are being made. We did have some that were noticed last year and into the winter months. They've already done some repairs, and they'll be finishing them up this week to get those all taken care of.
Thank you.
That's a relief. That was a rough stretch of road.
Oh, boy.
Mm-hmm.
You lose a front end there.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move along to new business, item 21A, which is the temporary traffic order 2024-08, Laconia Motorcycle Week. Kirk, I see there have been some amendments made to this. Can you just touch on
Yeah,
those?
there's 3 amendments, and this is why it's not just under your consent action. One is the end time is generally listed at 5 p.m. on Sunday. We were asked this year, instead of putting a true end time, if it can be an end time, but also an opportunity for consultation between Motorcycle Week and the police chief, if for some reason an earlier or later end time had to happen. So that's added to there. There's one section that's looking for during the Tower Hill climb on Tuesday. They want to block parking spots on Lakeside Ave. Don't foresee that being an issue, as it's all motorcycles down there anyhow, so it won't be an issue. But the last one, the last one is, if you remember last year, we took the crosswalk that comes out just north on Endicott Street, just north of Lakeside Ave. It's very bunched, it's very hard to queue people up, so we slid it down last year, made a temporary crossing that went basically straight across Lakeside Ave into the area where the drive-in is. DOT approved that last year. They did receive a few complaints about it, so they wanted to see how we could adjust that this year. So essentially what we're gonna do is widen the crosswalk, so it's still gonna encompass the current crosswalk, be widened, back towards Lakeside Ave, and so it'll be a wider crosswalk, but including what's currently there. DOT already said no, that was fine, and Public Works has been notified, and the PD had no issues with it as well. They said they'll be able to cover that crossing without an issue.
Okay,
Those are the
any
changes.
questions for the city manager on the temporary traffic order 2024-08? Okay, seeing none, looking for a motion to approve temporary traffic order 2024-08 as presented for Laconia Motorcycle Week 2024. So made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Cheney. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Moving on to item number 21B, which is our first half sewer warrant. Per chapter 189-50, capital C, collection of a flat rate sewer accounts are collected by the tax collector. The sewer warrant, the collection of funds totals up to $244,707.92. It is recommended by Katie Gargano, our tax collector, to approve and sign the 2024 first half sewer warrant. So right now, I'll be looking for a motion to approve 2024 first half sewer warrant. So made by Counselor Hoffman, seconded by Counselor Haynes. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes as well. Under item number 21C, our city clerk, Katie Gargano, was also weighing in on this one. And this is a request to set the polling hours for the state primary election being held on September 10th, 2024. And this, what's that? Oh, sorry, I got that right. September 10th, 2024, and the state general election being held on November 5th, 2024, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Per RSA 659:4, quote, "At all state elections in towns and cities, the polls shall open not later than 11 o'clock in the morning and shall close not earlier than 7 o'clock in the evening. In cities, the city council shall determine the polling hours no later than 30 days prior to a state election." Well, within that time frame, I think. These hours are consistent with prior state and federal elections held in Laconia. So right now, I'll be looking for a motion to approve the polling hours for the state primary election being held on September 10th, 2024, and the state general election being held on November the 5th, 2024, respectively, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Counselor Felch makes that motion, seconded by Counselor Hoffman. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Thank you, Katie.
Mr.
Moving
Mayor,
on.
if I could just interrupt, because I'll forget as we get closer, we do have non-public afterwards for, sale of the, I think it's D on the, for sale of land, just. I
Fair
forgot
enough.
Forgot to mention it to you earlier.
Okay, no problem at all. Agenda item number 21D. First reading of Resolution 2024-09 relative to making itemized appropriations for city funds for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024, terminating June 30th, 2025. The proposed fiscal year 25 budget was presented to the City Council on April 22nd, 2024. Per Section 5:04 of the City Charter, a public hearing must be held prior to the adoption of the budget by the council to allow for public input and discussion. This is the first reading of the budget and resolution. Scheduling of the budget public hearing for the second reading will follow. The proposed budget includes estimated revenues and expenditures for the general fund, motorcycle week fund, ambulance EMS fund, sanitary sewer fund, waterworks fund, internal service fund, downtown TIF district, Lakeport TIF district, and Weirs TIF district, as well as anticipated grants for fiscal year 2025. City manager recommends that the city council accept this budget as presented. Right now, we have a series of 3 motions. The first is to waive a reading of this resolution and to read by title only, so made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Haynes. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 6 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. Second, looking for a motion to move a first reading of Resolution 2024-09 relative to making itemized appropriations for city funds for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024 and terminating June 30th, 2025. So made by Counselor Phelps, seconded by Counselor Hoffman. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 6 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. Finally, on this matter, looking to move to, a motion to move to schedule a public hearing on June 10th, 2024, during the regular city council meeting to gather public input prior to adoption. So made by Counselor Phelps, seconded by Counselor Susie. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. 6 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. Agenda item number 21E, adding artistic sculptures to the downtown area. Kirk, would you walk us through that just briefly?
Sure, so after we did the approved the painting of the flower pots and all that downtown, we were immediately reached out by some artists that would like to put sculptures up in the downtown area. Still working on some areas, but most notably will probably be the Stewart Park, Rotary Park area. They would put their sculptures up. All we would have to do is have a sign that says who it is and contact information. So it is advertising for them. These would be similar to what you see up in Meredith. My recommendation is, because they were working with Parks and Rec Director Lavisa anyhow, is that if you like this idea and it's approved, that we would have her handle the logistics of how this wants to work out. And but I think it would be another addition to our downtown that would certainly beautify it a little bit and enhance it. So,
Thank you. Any questions for the city manager and what he shared with us? Seeing none, I look right now, so there's a proposed motion before you. Right now, we're looking for a motion to move to approve Parks and Facility Director Lovisic to coordinate the sculpture installations proposed in the area of Rotary Park, Stewart Park, and the entrance of downtown. So made by Councilor Haynes, seconded by Councilor Felch. Is there any further discussion? Yes, Councilor Cheney.
I just would ask that we ask the Amy to look at other areas in the city like Lakeport and the Weirs. I think there's a small park in Lakeport that could stand some artistic stuff, and the Weirs, I think, would be a great place for some more of that. So I just, it's a comment, not a change to the.
And to keep it in good taste.
Yes, and I know Amy's already talked to some people, she's already looked at some sculptures, she's already turned some down, keeping it in good taste, so, yes.
Okay. All right.
Thank
So the motion is before us. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. Moving on to agenda item 21F. Request to designate portions of the odd-numbered side of Dixon Street a no parking area. Mhm. Okay. Kirk, I know you've got Director Anderson here. Walk us through this a bit.
So Council Bogart has reached out to us about looking at one small area on the odd side of Dixon Street at the Avery Street end, where it transitions from Avery Street onto Dixon, to make that no parking. Currently, the opposite side of the road is no parking, and there's one section on the odd side that is no parking as well because the way a driveway backs out. This is the same issue that they have, a driveway backing out. If vehicles are parked there, it makes it difficult. It also makes it difficult if they're too close to the end on making that turn. So it's listed on there where it would, the houses that it would affect. If this was accepted, we would have a public hearing on June 10th, and prior to that, we would send out letters to affected residents, so they would be notified that we're looking at doing this, and if they wanted to come in and speak during the public hearing, they would have that notification.
So is this a I see it's the report. Is it the recommendation of DPW that this is a good choice?
It's really just to improve the ability for people to back out of their driveways.
Right, I got that, but are you recommending this change take place?
You'll probably have a lot of pushback from the residents, because it's gonna take away a lot of their on-street parking for their visitors. But other than that, from a safety standpoint, it makes sense.
So you support this motion?
And can I ask why the separation? It seems like you're picking certain residents versus others.
Are
That's
you
what it
you looking
appears.
at the map?
Yeah,
Because the second one, the smaller one, that's already in place. So we're adding the piece down by Avery Street. So we didn't, otherwise, if we wanted to connect the two, we would take out a whole,
so you already
bigger
have one
section.
small.
there's already, the smaller piece that you see, the smaller red line is already current. And instead of tying them all together and making a large section, we're trying to make as limited impact as we could. That was the thought process behind that.
Okay, so we're just moving this to a public hearing at this point, to gather additional input. So right now, looking for a motion to move that the city council send certified letters to those properties affected by the proposed no parking in the two areas on the odd-numbered side of Dixon Street as presented, and to schedule a public hearing to gather public input for the June 10th, 2024 regular city council meeting. So
Yeah.
made by, yeah,
Mr. Mayor, I'll make the motion.
okay, so made. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Counselor Susie, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. Opposed, 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. 21F has already been addressed and moved on. Let's move to 21H. Cost of living wage scale adjustment tentative agreement. City Manager Beatty, would you walk us through this a bit?
Sure, so we've been working, you heard me discuss this during our budget presentation. We've been discussing it leading up to tonight. We're looking at making our cost of living wage scale adjustments for all of our unions and our non-union employees as well. We do a cost of living increase every year anyhow. This is in addition, this is a larger increase than we normally do. We would be looking for, like I said, the 4 unions that the city represents, as well as our non-union employees, the police and AFSCME, the American Federation of State and County Municipal Employees. So a lot of the plow truck drivers, those people, those employees that you'd see. DPW is represented by 2 different unions. So when I say that, that's the group that I'm talking about. They have approved theirs moving forward. The firefighters and the SEA members, they're just waiting on their membership approval. They, we wanted this to make sure it was done as though it was negotiations, if you will. And so, we want it approved through their unions. They're dealing with that now. And our non-union employees, we're finalizing those numbers. We have to post them 10 days ahead. So our goal is to get those out at the next meeting, as long as everything gets approved through their unions. So tonight I'm looking to approve the police and AFSCME. And as I said during budget presentation, it would be during the FY25 budget that we would be looking to fund these increases.
So, right now, I'm looking for a motion to approve the cost of living and wage scale adjustments for the Laconia Police Department and the American Federation of State, County, Municipal Employees as presented. So made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Susie. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. 6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes.
Thank you.
Moving along to unfinished business. Transportation fee for commercial bulk recycling under agenda item number 22A. Where are we on this now, Kirk?
It has gone through subcommittee. We've had a public hearing on it tonight. So if, just as a refresher, this is the bulk recycling from commercial entities, bringing it to the transfer station. We're starting to get charged for that, so we need to offset those costs. Our commercial, if it was in Laconia, we're gonna use Waste Management's fee for disposing of trash, minus 10%, because we don't want people just making it trash and throwing it away, so we're trying to incentivize that. Recycling outside the city would be Waste Management's fee for disposing of the trash, adding $10 to that would round those to the nearest dollar. Once this gets approved by you, I am in the final stages of negotiating with Waste Management on this, but this would give me the guidance and the approval numbers that I need to go finalize that agreement with Waste Management. So that's where this stands.
So right now, we have a series of 3 motions on this matter. First one is looking for a motion to move to waive a reading of ordinance 2024-194-24, parentheses 1, in its entirety and to read by title only. So made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Susie. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative, that passes. Second, looking for a motion to move a second reading of ordinance 2024-194-24, parentheses 1, an ordinance amending chapter 194, solid waste, article 3, dump and disposal fees. So made by Counselor Hoffman, seconded by Counselor Cheney. Any further discussion?
Just one.
Please, Counselor Haynes.
Kurt, has there been any pushback from any of the businesses or any comments or
I have
anything?
not, I have not received any. I don't know if Public Works, I have not received any.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
No problem. If there are no further questions, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Finally, on this matter, looking for a motion to approve ordinance 2024-194-24, parentheses 1, an ordinance amending chapter 194, solid waste, article 3, dump and disposal fees as presented. So made by Counselor Hoffman, seconded by Counselor Cheney. Any further discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. 6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Moving on to agenda item number 22B, which is the Laconia Fire Department EMS billing rates. Kirk, you would take this, please?
Yep, so this, as Councilor Susie mentioned, this went to the Finance Committee. We did have meetings with the fire department in that subcommittee meeting and discussed our ambulance billing changes, requested changes. It had been a number of years since we've done this. It's probably something we should be keeping up with every, probably 2 years or so. And it had been a while. So what you have presented to you tonight is we're requesting this goes to a public hearing and you'll see the current rate changes that are listed in front of you. We did note the losses that we were taking each year. As far as billing goes, this is an opportunity for us to be able to correct some of that and get us closer to, if not at, a break-even point for our EMS services within the city. So this is the numbers that the fire department did these numbers based on what we're seeing in like size in neighboring communities, with a little bit of combination of both. And so that's what we'd like to bring forward to a public hearing.
Thank you very much. So right now, we're looking for a motion to move to schedule a public hearing on June 10th, 2024, during the regular city council meeting to gather public input prior to any action being taken regarding the proposed changes to the Laconia Fire Department EMS billing rates. So made by Councilor Cheney, seconded by Councilor Susie. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Right now, that completes tonight's agenda. We will be going into a non-public session according to RSA 91-A:3, Roman 2. Consideration of the acquisition, sale, or lease of real or personal property which, if discussed in public, would likely benefit a party or parties whose interests are adverse to those in the general community. When we return from this, we will only adjourn the meeting. We will not be taking on any new business once we come back from non-public session. So is there a motion to go into non-public? So made by Councilor Cheney, seconded by Councilor Susie. Ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney?
Yes?
Counselor Susie?
Yes.
Counselor Hoffman?
Yes.
Counselor Haynes?
Yes.
Counselor Bogart?
Yes.
Counselor Felch?
Yes.
6 votes in the affirmative. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
See you guys.
Good job.
6 votes in the affirmative. When you turn off our live stream,